Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to see so many people here with us. We're just sorry not to see you in person, but what a great opportunity this is to get a huge community of people together on Zoom. So this is our first session, Beyond the Mask, with Julia Davies Nutrition. My name is Florence Wild Nicholas. I'm a nutritional therapist at Julia Davies Nutrition, along with my team, Alyssa, Powell, who you can see here, and Julia herself. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Julia to you. Julia is a lecturer in nutrition. She's a fully certified functional medicine practitioner, a nutritional therapist, and more recently she is full-time homeschooling both of her children whilst juggling a busy clinic. So Julia is a bit of a superhero, and I'll hand you over to her for today's presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Florence. Really, really nice words to acknowledge the situation going on at the moment is so crazy. So before we got started, just want to really say that one of the main purposes of doing this and bringing this all together today is to actually just remind you that although we're all working remotely at the moment, we are very much your community. We're all like-minded here. You've all joined this session today because you're really interested in how you can proactively help yourself. So I'm really pleased to see you all here and so many people joining. It's wonderful. And I'm going to take you through not too much in-depth science today, just trying to get you to understand your immune system and a little bit more about it so that you can know the whys and wherefores of lots of other recommendations that we make going on through this session of webinars. So let's get started. So all of you must be familiar with the more public health measures that we're taking to prevent the infections. So the social distancing, the development of the vaccine, wearing masks, washing your hands, hand sanitizing. So all of these measures are here to control the short-term scenario. What I'm really passionate about, and we all are at the clinic, is really what is the long term with regards to where we are now with the pandemic and what the future holds. And one of the particular areas of concern is that a lot of these measures are really focused on the virus itself, and not so much the interaction that virus then has with our bodies, because there's two ways to look at this relationship. There's two sides of the coin here. So if we just perhaps illustrate that in a different way, and the measures that we're currently taking are to protect ourselves and needed, obviously, because of where we're at the moment, but they're very focused on what we call the germ. So COVID-19 in this case is the germ. But if we were to complete the pie chart with other types of lifestyle actions that we could be doing and we could be proactively addressing, then it helps to complete the circle there. And all of those things are really enhancing what we call the terrain. So when I say terrain, what I mean is the way that the germ or the virus interacts with our bodies. So the terrain being our body's response to it, or the immune system. And you can enhance that in so many different ways. And this is by no means an exhaustive list of all of those different factors, but it just shows, if you were to stop here, just know how liberating it is that you can look at lots of these different categories and even more, and have a positive impact on your immune system, which will make you stronger and more resilient when you come into contact with the virus. So yes, avoidance is a brilliant strategy, but if you're not so lucky to avoid it, all of these other factors can make the interaction with it far less severe. So one of the things that is on everybody's mind is, we know with COVID-19, there's some people that seem to get the infection and don't get any symptoms at all. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's very, very severe and nasty and can have really long-lasting impacts. And the difference between those two people is all to do with the terrain of the body. So this is the area of our expertise. This is the area of our focus today. And then our future webinars next week and the week after are going to be then discussing more the action points in greater depth. So let's just take a look at some of these for a moment. So exercise, top left, that's really important to move your bodies. We'll talk about more of actually how we do that going through, but exercise itself has been proven to have really positive impacts on the immune system, and just getting moving each day, not being too sedentary, which in lockdown it's easier to be sedentary just because those movements and little walks to and from places when you're out and about, they're just not happening at all. Blood sugar levels are really important. So we know that it's really common for people that are getting complications of COVID that they might have diabetes or problems or irregularities with controlling their blood sugar. So this is an area that we could really focus on as well. Managing stress is an interesting one to raise now, because the world's stress levels have definitely raised in the last 12 months, just coping with the pandemic and the strategies to limit it, even if you've not even suffered with the virus yourself or know anyone that has, just the steps taken to deal with that is just so significant, you know. So my situation is more, you know, busyness, hectic lifestyle, trying to fit everything in, trying to homeschool, trying to work, you know, just very, very, very busy. Whereas on the other end of the scale, there's people that are retired and have absolutely nothing to do outside of their own home, which they might be living alone, or people that did have an amazing job, but then they're furloughed and they're not allowed to work and they have nothing to do. So the structure is lost for a lot of people. So I really like the reference to, you know, when people say we're all in the same boat, we're not in the same boat at all, but we are in the same storm. And I really like to identify that none of us are in the same situation. We've all got different things that are causing us stress, but I think we can quite comfortably say that most people's stress levels have increased rather than decreased. So that's a really interesting and important, crucial area that we need to look at, because high stress levels just suppress the immune system, which then impedes on the terrain. So that when we encounter COVID, the terrain is not as strong as we would like it to be because of that stress. So some more obvious things like eating healthier foods. You're never going to go far wrong by trying to be a little bit healthier with your diet and boosting your diet with vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. You know, these things, we're going to help you a lot with this, because you know, we believe that if you understand why you're doing something, it's a lot easier to implement it. So next week's session is all about what foods you should eat more of, and trying to just do a bit of myth busting and get you to understand it and view it in a different way that's more helpful to you. Sleep and rest. Again, it's a really important pillar of what we're trying to achieve with the immune system, but it's not an easy one. It can be a challenge for a lot of people to get sleep, particularly again with lockdown and the routine has been lost. And maintaining a healthy weight, lastly. So like I say, this is not an exhaustive list at all, and this could be, we could add another 10 factors on there. The purpose of this is to just illustrate in just a very, very visual way that there are so many factors that you've got control of that can really improve your immune system. So that the interaction with the germ aspect and the terrain, you're taking care of both sides of the coin. So if we consider true immunity, it's far more than just avoidance of disease. So screening yourself off is necessary at the moment under certain circumstances to eliminate contact or really reduce the risk of contact. However, that is not your immune system at play. That is just a measure in order to protect you. So true immunity is much more than just avoidance of disease. So I'm going to go against all my natural instincts to turn this into a science lesson, and I just want to break it down to really, really simple terms so that it's just actionable. So the immune system is hugely complicated, and it can be divided into kind of these two aspects of the team. So they work together to build up your general immunity. So not going to go into exactly how it works, because you just don't really need to know, but I really want you to understand the two divisions of it, because it's so important for what we're dealing with right now. So the first one I'll be describing is called innate immunity. So the innate immune system is the first point of contact or the first line of defense that your body has. So it's the physical barriers of our body. And these barriers, so think of like your skin, that's a physical barrier. It's very easy easily tangible is your skin as a barrier. When I named this, I named it Beyond the Mask, because we're all so used to wearing masks covering. The innate immune system is almost like our internal mask. So it's like, don't feel vulnerable if you haven't got the mask on. It doesn't mean that that's literally your defense is gone. You know, I think people are getting so used to that. It's almost like if you don't have your mask on. I've seen people wearing masks outdoors when there's no one else around, and I wonder why that might be. But I think people are using it as a safety blanket. So your innate immune system is like your internal mask. So your skin covering your body inside in your nasal passages, in your lungs, in your mouth, in your stomach, in the lining of your intestines. All of it forms like a barrier. And this is the interface with the environment. So any bacteria, any viruses, anything at all will hit those barriers, and then it's up to those barriers and the immune system activity there that dictates if you need to have an immune response against that substance or not. So the innate immunity is first line of defense, and it's this barrier system in your body. And the second part is the adaptive immune system. Now, you've probably heard of antibodies. This is how your body starts to generate a kind of memory against past infections. So if you get an infection and you can make antibodies against it, the next time you see that infection present, your immune system, or the adaptive part of it, has been trained to respond in a certain way that deals with it really effectively. So this is the area or the division of the immune system that vaccines interact with. So vaccines don't really do much for the innate immune system, but the adaptive immune system is really the key to their aspect. So some of you may have had the vaccination already, some of you may not have, some of you may choose not to have it, or some of you may be waiting for it. So I know there's going to be a mix of people here. So I thought it would be interesting to see that fits into the adaptive immune system. So I've got some illustrations to show you. Just kind of visual. I'm a really visual person. I'm not so good with words. I prefer to just see things. So this is a diagrammatic illustration of your immune system. So can you see my cursor if I'm moving my mouse like that? Okay, thank you for those nods. So here, this is like the environment. So this might be the inside of your lungs or the inside of your gut. So we're talking about those barriers here. This is the interface of where the outside meets the inside. This in the blue is the inside. So the adaptive immune system is that's where you're generating that antibody response, and you're having, I mean, there's hundreds of chemicals involved, but it's mounting quite a coordinated response against a specific bug if it gets in the first place. So if we look at this barrier, the innate immune system, now I've actually shaded this out to give the impression that it's like a damaged barrier. It's quite weak. So this slide is looking at what it is to have a weak immune system. So if the barrier is not intact fully, so that means like in terms of like the gut, it might be that there's some gut irritation going on there, or in the lungs, it might be a chronic history of asthma, say, or there's something that's really disrupted the membrane that actually lines those organs. Then let me show you, because I've got a picture here of what happens when the virus actually comes into contact with that. So down here, let's just say this is COVID-19, but it could potentially be anything. It's in our environment, it's managed to break through our innate immune system because it's not strong enough, and then it really proliferates in the body. So all these colourful blobs here, this is just representing your immune cells and your immune system. So it's not quite able to get on top of it. So this would represent a weak immune system, a poor barrier function, and really an exacerbated disease, so more of a severe illness. So now let's consider the trained adaptive immune system. So if you've got really strong immunity, whether that's naturally, or if you've had the vaccination that's actually given you the ability to recognize specifically COVID-19, but you've still got this kind of more like weaker integrity of the innate immune system barrier. Let's look what happens here. So it's trying to get in. It does get in, but you're a bit stronger on your adaptive immunity, or you've had the vaccination, so it disappears. So that is showing, and it's illustrating that your immune system is able to get rid of it. And then you're fine. So you can get through that particular infection. One thing I wanted to just really point out is that vaccines are very specific to a bug or to a germ. So if another one comes along, if your barrier is not intact, that will get in, but you will then go back into the situation of the previous slide where it proliferates. So it's very specific. So vaccine doesn't just make your immune system strong. It doesn't actually do that. It is very specific to that one bug. So if we consider the very first slide that I discussed with you with the pie chart on it, it's again very germ focused and not at all terrain focused. So vaccines are part of the picture of ending this pandemic, and it's incredible how quickly scientists have managed to actually create this and get them on the market and get them working, and you know how they're getting through vaccinating so many people in the UK. I cannot even get my head around how quickly that is all going. So you know, I'm thinking the bulbs are starting to come through in the garden now. It won't be long before the sun starts shining, and we'll hopefully we're coming to the end of this particular pandemic. But as I said before, what I'm really passionately involved in trying to change the outlook of is what happens next, what happens after this. So I don't want people to think, right, I've had the vaccine, I'm fine, I've gotten through this, let's just go back to normal and enjoy our lives again. Obviously, we all want to do that. We all completely share that. But what lessons can we learn from what we've been through with COVID-19 and why we've had to take such drastic measures in order to protect us as a society as far as possible? And is there more that we can be doing to actually help that terrain of the body? So if we had a strong overall immune system, so your barrier here, you'll notice it looks different visually. This is a really nice, robust innate immune system. So let's just look what happens here. So you've got COVID-19. It's trying to get in, it's there in the environment, can't get in. So that would be quite a nice situation, wouldn't it? So I just really wanted to do that to illustrate the importance of the barriers. The barriers are everything. The innate immune system is everything. And interestingly, the innate immune system it plays a really important role in telling the adaptive immune system what to do. So it's not just the barrier, it actually instructs the adaptive immune system how to respond as well. It's such intelligence at that barrier level. So just to really strengthen that point, here is a new bug. I'm not going to name it because we don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it doesn't get in. Whereas if your immune system is weaker and you've got less robust barriers, then you can let everything in, sort of present and future. Okay. So on those illustrations, I hope they were helpful, because that's telling you kind of more visually what we're trying to achieve. Basically, if you remember nothing else, it's your innate immune system, it's everything, and we need to get that strong barrier. So what does the barrier actually look like in our body? Because on the diagram, it's just a line. So what does that line represent and what is it? So in our body, two major areas where we're interacting with our environment is our lungs, in the air that we actually breathe in. So every time we inhale, no matter what's in the air, whether it's exhaust fumes, pollution, or pure, beautiful air from the forest, whatever we inhale, it comes into contact with the mucous membrane, which is like the wet lining of our lungs. And that is then the innate immune system in the lungs. So anything that we inhale has the potential to harm or heal our barriers. And because we are breathing all of the time, every single moment of our lives, we're breathing. actually being aware of the impact that that might have on our innate immune system and our barriers is potentially really useful to because we can modify that. We can actually modify the way we breathe. We can modify the type of air we breathe, and we can actually look at our environment as well and what we are breathing. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. In our gut, it's what we consume is really important. So, you know, we can swallow anything we like. We can drink anything we like, eat anything we like, and it's not really inside of our body unless our gut lining decides it wants to absorb it. So first it meets the membranes of the mouth, and then so you can view your innate immune system. You can view this barrier by just open your mouth and look in the mirror. You know, that sort of pinky coloured mucous membrane, that is what we're talking about, but it's extensive throughout the entire body. So when it's swallowed, it then meets the lining of the stomach and then the intestines. So we can't really talk about the innate immune system without talking about microbes. So some of you may have heard the word microbiome. Now this is a huge area of interest for us as naturopaths, and it's our entire world is microbial. There are more microbial cells in our bodies than there are human cells, and the number of exactly how many changes because actually we simply don't know. But it's so significant, and we couldn't live for a minute without microbes. So with the innate immune system and the barriers, what I illustrated as a line on the animated diagram, what we're looking at is we're looking at cells lining the intestinal tract or the lungs. And then that is covered with a layer of mucous membrane. And then the mucous membrane is then covered with lots of communities of different types of bacteria, viruses, even some parasites are in there as well. And there's a huge amount of living colonies that are on the innate immune system. And it is the health of these and the diversity of these that actually dictate how healthy that barrier is. So a good, robust barrier means the cells are healthy underneath. You're producing enough of what we call mucus, which is just like basically like a viscous fluid. Think of it like a gel that's been squirted, like a lubricant, if you like. It just protects everything. And then on top of that, if you get a really diverse mix of different types of microbes and bugs, that is what we're looking for. That is a really robust, healthy, innate immune system. So where do these microbes come from? They are everywhere. So not all bugs are bad. That's the most important thing to remember. We live with, you only need to see things like Yakult TV adverts, don't you? You know, it's about feed your healthy bugs, feed your healthy bacteria. So, you know, there is some general awareness that these bugs are really good for us, but they are everywhere. So they're on our skin. We have a microbiome of our skin, a microbiome of our gut, of our lungs, of our bladder. You know, things like if you're getting like frequent UTIs, urinary tract infections, that can signify that your innate immune system around the bladder and the genitourinary tracts it's not in balance. It's not diverse enough. It's not fighting. So bugs fight bugs. That's essentially what's happening. If we've got a good mix of bugs on us and in us and around us, then we're going to have a really, really strong defense against fighting any bugs that are a little bit nasty. So some bugs are nasty. COVID-19 is an example of a nasty virus. But if we've got protection with the diversity of what naturally occurs within us, then we've got much more of a defense against it. Okay, so what do we do? So that really is the kind of more technical bit of what we're trying to achieve, which is a strong barrier of the innate immune system. So what should we do with that information to try and make it as practical as we can to just put that into action? So this slide here is how we can build a stronger immune system. So I've categorized it into 4 different areas: eat, sleep, move, and breathe. So you might think, oh, I've done all those already, I'm winning. But there's lots of different aspects of those things that you can really kind of dive into, understand them a little bit better, and just make small improvements. And it's also relative, isn't it? So, you know, where you're coming from now, you know, some of you may be 99 years old, and, you know, maybe you've got pain from arthritis and you struggle to prepare food, and that might really impair your dietary aspect of it. And moving, you think, oh heck, I'm lucky if I get from the bed to the chair. Completely different from, you know, a teenager whose main issue is getting up and, you know, getting on with their day, not staying in bed for 22 hours out of 24. You know, everyone's coming from a different starting point. But I honestly believe no matter what your starting point is, you can make changes, and as long as it's relative to you and manageable for you, no matter where you're coming from, you can get that little bit better. And then when you're there, you get that little bit better again. You just keep challenging yourself. So breathing is the most simple. So I just want to start with that one, because as long as we are all here and as long as we are alive, we have our lungs. Even if we have lung disease, you still have your lungs, you still have the ability to breathe. And one of the things about breathing is when you're stressed, you tend to breathe really shallow, you know, breathing into your collarbone, when actually your lungs extend all the way down through your abdomen. So you learning how to, not even learning how to breathe, it sounds very silly. It's like, well, I can breathe, I've been doing it since the day I was born, I've never learned how to breathe. Being aware of your breathing is one of the most important things, because if you can breathe nice and deeply and focus on your breathing, slow it down, and your heart rate slows down, not only does it manage stress and it really starts to lower those stress hormones, it actually lowers inflammation. It lowers your level of inflammation. And when you're chronically inflamed at a low level, this is another circumstance in which you get really complicated disease from COVID-19, because you're already chronically inflamed. So you tend to get an aberrant response to when that virus is a trigger for you. So I found something really simple that I just want to take you through. And this is by no means a complicated breathing exercise. It's just an illustration of something simple that you can do. Like I said, I'm a visual person, so rather than write down instructions, I wanted to just show you what to do. So we'll just run through it for like a minute or so and just all have a go, and then you can do what you want with it afterwards. So breathe in, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold again for 4 seconds. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it. Okay, so you get the impression. Okay, I just wanted to show you that simple. So that's called square breathing, that technique. So if you want to Google it, and you can get any kind of instruction on YouTube that's a visual thing like this. You can get apps on your phone that you can download, and you get some really fun stuff as well, where you have to follow like a marble on a track and things, and you can make it exciting and make it fun. It's brilliant to do with children as well. I do it with children. My kids are 6 and 8 years old, and trying to get them to calm down at certain aspects of the day is actually particularly useful for me as well. So we tend to do these sorts of things together. But it really does, if you do this for maybe 15 minutes at a time, we've just done it for like less than 1 minute. But if you do it for about 15 minutes at a time, once or twice a day, particularly if you're really stressed or really tired, or if you're in pain, it is proven to help lower pain levels as well. Your sensation and experience of pain will change when you're focusing on your breath. And if you have a particular region of your body that is in pain, if you visualize your breath going to that region. So lower back pain is really, really common. If you to breathe in to your lower back, just visualize all the oxygenation going there, and it actually helps with the pain as well. Okay, I also wanted to introduce this to you because I've a really good friend of mine, Liz Sparks. She runs breathing and guided meditation classes, and she runs, you know, a combination of free classes and, you know, some paid stuff that goes a little, you know, into a lot of depth. But the free 30-minute guided meditations have absolutely saved me through lockdown, and it's really nice again to just feel like you're part of that community. So you need to register for her classes, but they're every Friday evening at 8 p.m. and I've just put her website details on there, so if you wanted to access those, you would be really welcome to. Okay, so the next sort of aspect of how to make those innate immune barriers stronger is movement. So full disclosure, I'm not a physical therapist, I'm not an exercise therapist at all, but, you know, part of our role within the clinic is making all sorts of lifestyle recommendations. So you probably noticed that I've called it movement and not exercise. It's because a lot of people say exercise, I'm not going to the gym, gyms are closed anyway, what are you talking about? It doesn't have to be formal exercise, just moving your body is really, really important. It's been proven in studies that it improves your immune system. It's even, and especially so in the elderly. There was a study that I saw, elderly people receiving a flu vaccination had a better response to the vaccine. It protected them more if they had been regularly exercising. So the habitual attitude to exercise is better. So not just, you know, running one day and then doing nothing for 3 weeks and then having another go at something. That's not really going to work. It's the habitual, regular, daily exercise that's really good. So that might just be that you keep on top of your housework, and that's exercise enough. But its intention is everything. So if you think, you know, I'm changing my beds, but I'm going to be, you know, when I'm doing that, I'm going to be stretching my body, I'm going to be doing some squats, but as I'm doing it, like, it's, if you have an awareness that the movement is good for you, it's really, really helpful. So my recommendation on movement is move more than you did yesterday, because then it's relative. So whatever you did yesterday, just do a little bit more today and just see how you go. And then tomorrow, try and do a little bit more tomorrow than you do today. So you get the impression, just do what you like. I think, you know, weeding in the garden is a wonderful exercise, cleaning the house, going for walks. You know, one of the joys of lockdown, not that there's a huge amount, one of the joys of lockdown is being outdoors all the time. And that's actually, you know, in the UK, there's not many days that are prohibitively cold that we can't go out. What's the saying? It's not bad weather, it's bad clothing. So wrap up warm and get out. And walking in, if you can walk in a natural environment, that is so beneficial for your immune system, particularly amongst trees. So the eating aspect of how to build your immune system. So we're going to cover this in a lot of detail next week, but if you're only here for today and you can't make the other webinars, then eat the rainbow, make your plate look really colourful. And what this does is the colours that naturally occur in mostly like plant foods, like say blueberries, aubergine, broccoli, sprouts, you know, so many different colours of fruits and vegetables. It's the actual colour pigment that feeds certain bacterial colonies in that microbiome. So when we're trying to build up the innate immune system and we need really good diversity of bacteria, by eating lots of different colours, you're feeding lots of different colonies of bacteria because they all feed on slightly different things. So they feed on fibre as well, which is really important, and we probably eat about 1/5 of the amount of fibre that we actually need to eat to feed our microbiome properly, but I will talk about that much more next week. So if in doubt, make your plate colourful and eat a seasonal variety, and you won't be going far wrong. I don't like strict rules, I like general concepts that are just really easy to follow, so hopefully that will resonate with you in some way. Okay, sleep. So we're going to cover sleep again, actually. So I'm just going to touch on it for now. We're going to talk about sleep in the 3rd week when we're talking about some nutritional hacks for how to sleep. It's a tricky area because There's nothing like telling an insomniac to sleep. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go and sleep then. You know, you can't make yourself go to sleep. So there's lots of different things that contribute to that. And I was really trying to wrap my brains and think of all the people we see with sleep issues that we've managed to help. Like, what are those general things? And it is just so different for everybody. It's just too much to cover for the purpose of this. But routine is very important with sleeping. So if you can go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every day, this helps to reset what we call a circadian rhythm, which is like this kind of 24-hour body clock that you have. And if you've got problems with sleeping, no matter how severe, it really impacts your circadian rhythm. So trying to renew that is very important. And I'd go as far to say that if the first light you see when you wake up is natural light, that is even better. So when you wake up, before you reach for your phone and check your emails, can you open your curtains, open your window and look at the daylight? That is really helpful because it gives you a signal into your brain that it's now waking time rather than relying on artificial light. And talking of artificial light, put a blue light filter on your devices. So you can get these, it's a simple app, you don't have to pay anything for it. A blue light filter is something that filters out, well, it is what it is, it filters out blue light, and blue light is known to damage melatonin production in the brain. Melatonin is sleep hormone. And blue light is particularly targeted to interfering with that process. And if you don't activate your melatonin at the appropriate time of day, you can really impact your sleep. So this is really important for people, you know, with a sort of younger patient population that we see through the clinic. You know, when you suggest to them, you know, turn your phone off or leave it downstairs, horrified, absolutely horrified. The culture is that you have that phone with you all of the time, 24/7. What is airplane mode? Airplane mode is my most favorite thing on the phone, is just switch on airplane mode and you can feel liberated for an hour because nobody can get you. Okay, so there is a lot more to sleep, but hopefully those two strategies are something you can implement straight away. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. I hope that sort of lays some kind of foundation for really our philosophies and how we're thinking. There's a lot to learn and a lot to think about, but that hopefully gives you a signpost of what to look into next. So with the structure of these webinars, we've got another two, and then we've got one that's just devoted to Q&A. I really want to make sure that if you've got some questions of how to, like what to do, how to implement it, then I want to answer those questions and give that time. So that's what the fourth webinar is about, is just answering your questions. So you can write them in the chat box now, or you can email hello@juliadavisnutrition.com, and then we can get to them. Florence is going to tell you now about an offer that we've got on through the clinic for all of you guys for listening to this.
Thanks, Julia. That was fascinating, and hopefully you all really enjoyed that and have got some really helpful information from there already. We are offering nutrition immunity consultations at the moment for a reduced price for anybody who would like help implementing some of these ideas. If you'd like to discuss more about your barriers, your biome, the bugs and everything in between, then let us know and we can organise that for you, or go via our website. And we look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you, Julia. Is there a next slide? Next slide, please. Here we are. So here's more information about how to contact us, and our partner Margaret Hills, which most of you will be familiar with, is a wonderful natural health shop in Kenilworth with an amazing supply of natural foods and supplements and Epsom salt baths and amazing apple cider vinegar. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.